All right, welcome to the show. We want to introduce J.R. Burgess, an incredible human being. He has been really instrumental in helping regenerative medicine. You've run an $8 million, built an $8 million regenerative medicine wellness clinic that included coaching. It included medical fitness. And it's just an incredible topic and conversation we've been wanting to have for quite a while. So welcome, JR.
Thank you, Brandon and Deb. It's an honor to be here.
It's such an honor to have you on the show. You know, we've been wanting to have this conversation for so long. So let's let the listeners know a little bit about you. So tell us about your journey.
Yeah, well, most of you are coming wanting to learn some knowledge that resonates with you. And it was 2014 that I woke up and I was just so excited. We had been grinding for years to get to this point. And we are about to get the keys to our 28,000 square foot integrated healthcare center. And we are getting amazing outcomes with medical fitness, regenerative medicine, functional medicine, bridging the gap between wellness and healthcare and getting amazing outcomes. And right as I'm about to get the keys handed to me, I get a call from our insurance network in Minnesota. And they're like, JR, I have some bad news for you. And you're going to have to give up doing stem cells and PRP. Otherwise, we're going to take your insurance contracts away. And it felt like I got kicked in the stomach because with those modalities, we were getting world-leading outcomes. And with the insurance models, that was how we brought patients in from a marketing and a conventional model standpoint. Is with insurance, it just seemed like we'd get delays, discounts, and denials. And those procedures and office visits weren't what was creating the change. So it hurt. It's just like, but we're doing so good and we're proving it and doing research and everything that we're doing. So I went to my partner and I'm like, I think we're going to have to give up doing stem cells. And he looked at me and he said, JR, I'd rather go bankrupt than to have to go back to practicing medicine that I believe does more harm than good. And what we're doing is going to work. And I went home to my wife later that night and said, we're going to have to double down. And she was already frustrated and exhausted. We'd just had our third kid, and it's just like, you know, I was burning the candle at both ends for a long time to get to that point. And I said, well, we're going to have to do this differently. We're going to have to learn without the doctor having to be there full time, without, you know, requiring insurance to grow our model. We're going to have to do it differently. And that began the quest for a few more years of going to every mastermind you could imagine, learning how to make this model work.
Wow. What was the greatest amount of transformation that you guys saw with clients and patients coming through the door? What was the gap that, you know, you guys filled, and what was that success like?
The easiest way to say it is health and fitness has had it figured out for a long time. It's a wellness, it's a exercise, lifestyle medicine many people have heard of. That works, but a lot of that population was very scared to go to the gym. So when we started marketing medical fitness, when it was at a medical center where there was doctor integration and office visits and pre-exercise physicals, and when you start getting into the layers like hormones, things that actually produce the results, and you had the coaching, the personal trainers combined, we were getting amazing outcomes because people would trust the doctor brand and name, and that was a new concept at the time. So learning how to truly bridge those two worlds produced an outcome like no other.
And for the Energy for Life Center here in Park City, Utah, you know, you're in an operations role. What do you notice? What are you seeing that is helping the patients here with this current clinic? And, you know, we help medical doctors, holistic medicine, you know, as far as naturopaths, chiropractors. We're working with medical professionals to launch online coaching practices and really build that model, that department, a coaching arm inside of their current existing business. And many of them have a brick and mortar, and they want to transfer, either do a hybrid approach to go online and have more online marketing, more online presence, whether that's social media, really build the brand. And how are you seeing the benefits where coaching comes into play for these brick and mortar doctors?
So it's a great question. I got to take you back one step. How we were building the model, we licensed it to over 100 clinics around the world once we cracked the code of how to make that model work. And that required brick and mortar and hiring full-time coaches and personal trainers. So with whatever happened in our world, that was actually a blessing in disguise for actually the ultimate integrated healthcare model that produces outcomes, profits, freedom for the practitioners, the entrepreneurs, and being able to go online and have these accountability, these coachings, the results, really changed the margins in what brick and mortar practices was. So it's again, just like the health and wellness bridge in that gap, the hybrid model of that brick and mortar, get your labs, do your procedures, these cutting edge technologies, and then the online component that's very scalable. It changed the entire game. So that's what we're doing at the Energy for Life centers is patients come in, get treatments, and then they're coached from wherever they are in the world, and they can just come in, get that stem cell, get the procedure that they need, and be coached from afar. And for profit margins, like a lot of we would hire for these clinics full-time trainers or wellness as coaches, and even that hurdle financially was too much for sometimes. Versus now you can outsource a health coach, they can work with you part-time. We teach what we call co-opetition of how do you leverage everybody in a winning situation that allows this to grow. If you don't have the means of the finances or the team members or the full-time aspects to begin, no matter where you're at, this is not a difficult model. Now, if you have some financial resources and team members, it's so easy to build a model that's successful and scalable fast.
I want to come back to that co-opetition, but before we do, when it comes to the myths around regenerative medicine, for doctors that don't understand regenerative medicine, or they haven't read the case studies, they haven't experienced results, or maybe they've referred a patient to someone like you in your clinic. What are those myths and the misconceptions of regenerative medicine that has, from my perspective, based on the conversations we have with medical professionals, they're not maybe they're not as trusting, or they're not as confident to send a patient to this type of clinic to get that type of care?
Yeah, I think a lot of doctors have been trained and conditioned and installed a belief that we're meant to heal the patients that we see. Somebody comes in for knee pain, whether it's in the conventional model, give them cortisone, give them a pill, or give them stem cell, doesn't matter, or surgery, that I have to fix the patient. And their whole lives in that medical system, they're taught there's so much education, resources, responsibility, and I got to look at all these factors, and I have to be a problem solver for this patient with all the complexities that lead to whatever disease or degeneration or injury that's present. And I have to have ultimate confidence that this is going to work. Otherwise, they don't do it. So at the end of the day, I speak to consumers when building these models, and I go to healthcare conferences and speak to doctors all the time too. And I'll go to that conference with doctors and I say, what's wrong with healthcare? And they say, the patients just want a pill, or the patients just want surgery. And then I go speak at the consumer conference and I say, what's wrong with healthcare? And they say, the doctors just want to give a pill and the doctors just want to give surgery. And I say, ooh, interesting. Well, who's right? You got that answer? They both are, because it's what they believe. And the minute we're installed a belief system, the cap or the ceiling or thinking outside the box or really seeing the whole picture of possibility is kind of eliminated based on the belief. And that's why I've loved working with you so much, is just like I had some belief systems of what's possible that needed to get removed in order for me to reach the next levels of freedom, success, happiness, of anything that stood in my way.
From your perspective, how do we and doctors and patients, how do we bridge the gap of communication?
Communication is basically the key to making change. Whether it's patient compliance, is instead of feeling like the doctors have to heal them, saying, for instance, candidacy. Hey, if you're morbidly obese and you're on 5 different medications, this treatment plan may take 1 to 2 years compared to one injection that I don't know anybody that goes to the gym one time, has one workout, eats healthy for a week that gets this result. So instead of being I have to fix them with this one procedure, being able to explain a treatment plan that is really going to take and guide somebody to taking their power back. So that example that I gave earlier, we have to empower the patient to be like, you can heal yourself. I have some amazing tools and injections and resources that may help you, but unless you take ownership of your health, then we're going to be outsourcing everything in our lives versus the body does have the ability to heal. And we need to guide patients back to that.
Yeah.
I think that's huge. That's a huge topic. You brought up obesity, and I mean, there's just so many ailments and dis-ease right now in this country, and it's not getting better as fast as it's getting worse. And so I think it's fascinating that the conversation and the communication between the empowerment and the accountability for clients, for patients, like that education, we know food is at an all-time, probably at its unhealthiest as far as diet and nutrition goes. We've got more toxins in the environment than ever now. I think people are completely disconnected from what is healthy, what is healthy food that they're actually putting in their body.
And a lot of people believe that they're eating healthy when they're not because they don't have the education on what really is going in their food. And so I think a lot of people actually want to do the right thing by their body and heal themselves, but they have, it's the belief system and the meme that we don't have that power.
They don't know, right? Or lack of education. And I think that's like right there. It's like where I feel like that is the bridge that we need to be figuring out and communicating at a very quick level, is the coaching piece, mental and emotional performances, because there's so much before medicine even begins that we're not really paying attention to. You know, something that is a huge topic is trauma. You know, there are so many people walking around with traumatic experiences, memories, childhood wounding, and we're not making that part of the factor of lifestyle change. So we've got, lifestyle change. Okay, so
what does that mean?
Yeah, what does it mean, and how does that translate into patients changing habits, behaviors, beliefs, values? The stuff that gets in the way, the blocks, you know, we call them significant emotional events in our past. And so I think that's something that the medical world is really opening up to. And I think doctors, especially that maybe lean more toward the allopathic model, you know, they're prescribing medication. They're doing more traditional treatments. Those are, you know, it's both, right? It's not one or the other. It's like, how can we also start talking about the mental and emotional, what's going on in the patient before we just go right to, you know, the treatment?
And you nailed it. Most of the doctors don't always prescribe the holistic care because either they don't have the knowledge or expertise, or that's not their background and training. So it goes unleft. And we go back before 2014, before we opened that integrated center, it was the show The Biggest Loser that inspired me. The doctor looked the patient in the eyes and said, do you know you're at risk of stroke, heart attack, or disease? And then the patient would start bawling. And then I was like, oh my goodness, I just need that doctor to create urgency in that authority and be like, I have the resources here with our personal trainers and our coaches that are going to guide you along this journey, put you in community with other like-minded people that are actually going through the same things as you, instead of maybe your family or your environment that's not ready to make changes. You are ready, you are here. Let's put you in the environment that creates that. And I was like, if I could just lock them in a ranch for 3 months and I could get that. But no, it truly was that doctor just saying, you need to do this now. Or me marketing, because not all those patients were ready for exercise or fitness and change when they came for an injury. So going out and marketing medical fitness in a different and unique way of doing it created safety, where the obese or the chronically ill patients, they didn't want to go to the gym. So by marketing, hey, we got this safe program that gets world-leading results, showing those testimonials and outcomes, that brought them in. And then we integrated them into the clinic because they were ready. In the gym and the wellness world, they have to pay with cash. So then instead of depending on the insurance model, we would get them, the ideal patients, ready for functional, ready for regenerative. They knew they had to invest to make change. And that was the big difference maker.
What have you noticed with that between insurance and the cash wellness practice? Because I mean, Energy for Life is mostly cash practice. Dr. V, Elena, and Greg, they're most of their clients and patients are cash, and there's a lot of doctors that are trying to make that decision because of the the insurance challenge of actually getting paid. We have a lot of doctors in our community that are now cash practice only. So speak to that. What have you noticed as far as the up level from people investing in their health with cash versus, hey, I want to get this covered by insurance?
Yeah, and that's part of the challenge. Many of the doctors that are trained in conventional system that come up for that, like the first word everybody's used to hearing is, does my insurance cover this? And then to have to convince or sell when the doctors used to be in the authority, just like I said, hey, I need you to do this, but it was covered, they listen like, well. So a lot of things well up. Well, if I ask them or invite them into a $8,000 regenerative medicine procedure and they don't get outcomes, now somehow it's my fault. So like that confidence in actually what they're doing, the patient being compliant, there's a lot of noise going on in one's head. So you'll see people like that are morbidly obese that could potentially benefit instead of going to knee replacement from a regenerative medicine. They're like, oh, they're a bad candidate. They're not going to get a good outcome. And they're worried about their reputation so much that they don't actually make that confident prescription versus having that communication like we talked about that says, hey, your candidacy, because you're on multiple medications, because you have obesity going on here, doesn't make you the greatest candidate. However, you do have options of cortisone, knee replacement, or this regenerative medicine. If it were me or a loved one, there's no way I would start with knee replacement. I'd be doing this, but hey, your journey may be a little bit longer than somebody that doesn't have some of these other factors going on. So we're going to put you in our coaching program for 3 months, drop some weight, get your blood healthy because bad blood goes everywhere. And what the truth is, no matter if that patient did knee replacement, cortisone, or regenerative medicine, the same applies. If they're not making lifestyle changes, they're not going to get the greatest outcome regardless. So it's actually being confident and learning how to communicate and then confidently prescribe and give them the choice. So which one would you like to do? If it were me or a loved one, there's no way I'm not doing this, and giving them the choice to make that power. And again, feeling honest, being open, and telling them actually what it takes to get a good outcome. Because what I see in cash medicine all the time, because this lack of confidence, is one and done procedures, one functional test, 1 month of supplements, a 1 month treatment program versus really, as Jay Abraham calls it, the value of preeminence. If you believe you're the best, if you believe you actually have a world-leading outcome, you need to prescribe the program that's going to change their life and then know that it's a process. You didn't become a doctor overnight. We didn't become experts overnight. It took the work. And there's no guaranteed outcomes without personal responsibility in the work, in my opinion.
I think that's a big piece right there is the education around the consistency and the habits and behaviors that stack upon great health and improved health. It's like, I brushed my teeth last night. I need to do it today.
Hopefully you did it today.
I need to do it tomorrow.
Good for Monday.
And that's the thing. It's like, I went to the gym, this morning, and it's like, what's preventing us from continuing those healthy habits and behaviors? Because I think that is exactly the topic here is how can doctors leverage their time for the more challenging cases of obesity or all these other diseases, chronic illnesses, when you can have a coaching program, a wellness program that people can be on 6 months to a year before some of these harsher treatments and medications and things are actually said, hey, this is the best route. This is maybe your only route. I see that being a huge bridge there for doctors that are like burnt out, running themselves ragged, maybe not having the staff because of all of the billing and everything else they're having to do. I think that is a huge up level in all of our medical practices.
Yeah, I have a 5-step process that I can go into any practice. And basically, it's one of the 5 steps, depending on what they have. In that bridging the gap, the first thing that I typically do to increase the cash practice success of everyone is hire a coach that has a sales and retention background. Most personal trainers and health coaches, if they didn't keep people for 6 months, income goes down. So that's like the first move, because the front desks answer the phone like, what's your price? And here they go, and then that patient's gone. They don't know how to follow up. They don't know how to get those prospects. I go into the practice and they're like, that marketer didn't work. Well, who's answering the phone? How fast did they answer? Do they actually know how to communicate how you're different? And that answer is No, almost every single time.
Right.
So they think they got to go buy another fancy laser or hire this or that. And when it's just like they don't have the system that sets up a winning integrated model. This is different than the insurance where it's just easy. If you're a pain management practice, they're just dialing the number and they're coming and the office visit's covered. This
There's
is a
no
different
objections.
ballgame. Exactly.
So it's the business piece,
Yeah.
part of it, marketing systems,
sales.
And that coaching, actually both parts. So the true North Star is an outcome. And if you don't got the coaching model, the doctor doesn't have the time, the energy, and always the education in the background to actually deliver the true North Star care that they desire to do in the first place. And the second is ultimately, yes, sales and marketing. If you're going to have an outcome-based integrated practice, and we're sweeping that under the rug because like sales is icky or all that mindset and trash that we've been conditioned to believe, that's the immediate bottleneck. Those two things have to be solved. Coaching towards outcomes and marketing and sales has to be the priority if you truly have a model that you believe is going to change the world.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that. Speak to that belief system. Dr. V, Elena, and I were talking about this where she's a chiropractor and we're working with chiropractors, naturopaths, more leaning toward the holistic medicine, but there's areas for both. It's a collaborative approach here, and it's just more education all the way around. There's a lot of limitations, I think, installed, and it's a program that's running in medical professionals. I had a comment of a guy that we're going after medical professionals that they're in the top 10% of the US when it comes to income. And I'm talking to medical professionals that are not anywhere close to being in the top 10%.
Barely scraping by.
They're scraping by, like nurse practitioners,
Working their butts off.
physician assistants. They're burnt out. They're feeling underappreciated. They can't care for their patients the way they want. They're doing more paperwork and transferring from one system to another in their EMR systems. And that needs to change. Yeah. And what's the red flag to me is when our medical professionals are equally as unhealthy as our patients, if not worse, because of the burnout, because of fatigue, not sleeping, crazy shift hours. That to me is that's the elephant in the room that I think we ought to be talking about.
And it's the golden handcuffs. And I have so much empathy and compassion. And it's why I love working with visionary doctors. I meet with so many of them and they're like, JR, I went to med school. I got $300,000 in loans. I spend more time in my EHR than I actually do eye to eye with this patient. And what I went is to help them heal. And they're burnt out. Their soul's not in alignment with what they actually went and gave their whole mission in life to. And I meet with them and they're like, I got to break free. And then they go do it, right? And they were making 200 or 300 grand, while their soul's crushing.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now it's like, I'm going to go open my own. And it's like, oh shit, I'm actually only making 50,000, if not losing money now and spending double the time. And then it's just like, I'm supposed to have the answers. I'm a doctor. I know all this. I can't fail. I can't let my family down. And the burnout or the dissatisfaction or the fear of failure or the actually belief that they are failing is so high. And I meet some at rock bottom. And it breaks my heart because these are people that actually did the work, 20 years of school. And here they don't even know what to do next. So it's just like, Dr. Baumgartner, I don't build 100 clinics around the world and become the top volume stem cell center without each other. And the doctor thinks they have to do it or have all the answers. So we need somebody that actually knows the business or sales piece. You need a practice administrator that is amazing. We need the coaches that can actually make this scalable and profitable. And it's heartbreaking that they don't have the resources, the tools, or they've went and done so many mistakes. They don't even have the budget sometimes to add that next piece because they didn't have the formula to begin with.
And they're running from fear of failure and the belief system of what's been installed. We were talking about chiropractors. There's a lot of chiropractors that don't feel like they can do what they fully need to, as far as like, oh, you're not a real medical doctor. And I think unconsciously, I don't think this is intentional or on purpose, but there's an installation through different medical schools of you're not truly going to be able to go out there and make the kind of change and transformation in your patients' lives that XYZ medical doctor can do.
Got it. And this is one of the biggest things that when we talked about losing our insurance contracts, we got our butt kicked for a year after that. And it's like, I was looking at the bank account every day. How am I going to make payroll? Who am I going to lay off? And, all these things started to click. And 3 years later, we were the top volume stem cell center in the country. And what the big one was what we call is coopetition. So the medical doctors in the systems are trained to compete against each other. So I'll give you an example. I grew up playing sports, and sports were life, right? And I grew up in a small town area, and the kids right next to the town next to us, by the time I was in high school, we'd go to parties together and end up getting in fights. You were trained, they're your competition. But if they were on my team, they would have probably been my best friends growing up. Well, this is how we're all trained. Now doctors go to med school. They're competing to get in residency. They're conditioning them. They're supposed to be have all the answers. And I see this in every healthcare conference that I go to. It's just like, well, they're just a chiropractor. Or the chiropractor say, oh, they're a nutritionist. Or, hey, they're a personal trainer. And what really changed my whole perspective on all this was actually the sport of rugby. So in college, I played rugby, and yes, I wanted to impose my will on the other team. And after the game, it was completely different. All of a sudden, they tapped a keg, the barbecue came out, and after the game, we're actually partying with the other team. I'm like, what is all this? But I was a party animal, so I'm pounding the beers, and an hour later, we're singing songs. And we're giving high fives and hugging and yes and good and sleeping with the other team members and all that fun stuff. And I'm like, oh my goodness, why can't healthcare do the same thing? You're a chiropractor, high five. You're a personal trainer, high five. We're actually in this brotherhood together. We have dedicated our lives to changing lives. What an honor, what a gift that you've done this. And rugby is a brotherhood. I go to another country. I may not know anybody. I could go to Australia today, say, are there any rugby brothers or sisters out there that I could whore on with your team or stay at a place? I wouldn't know anybody, and I'd have a home to stay at immediately. And this is what is trained in the system, not love and appreciation of what each other's doing to make a difference. It's they are bad, they're the enemy, they are the...
This or that. It's this dichotomy.
Exactly.
Right,
There's only one way.
There's only one. And that's
Everybody
my way's
has
the
the
best.
best.
Everybody's the wrong. And it's the ego that's built to compete and destroy and divide as opposed to unite, collaborate, love. And back to the story is we found that chiropractor. They were our top referral source, but we didn't bring that in strategically because we referred back to them and said, hey, keep doing your monthly adjustments. Just give this 2 weeks to let these regenerative medicine procedures set in, then go back to there. So instead of when I give that referral, I lose that patient, is no, keep going, honoring that person that sent the referral and send them back to the source. So now we made that chiropractor or that nutritionist look like a hero. We just did our part in it. So how do we pass the ball like a scrum half in rugby and be like, we can't do the mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, energetic, all this holistic care. We actually have to collaborate to make this outcome most successful. Now, don't get me wrong, once you build up, you can do more under your roof and you're great at the marketing funnels and the sales strategy. But when you're just beginning, let's build a team, not isolation.
I love this concept because every doctor right now can do this.
Every one of them.
All they need to do is build relationships.
And it's opening up to the gratitude of that without the ego of, I healed you, which I think is
the healthcare system's broken. Who's actually healing? So like, great, I'm the best. I'm an orthopedic surgeon. Well, why are the opioid crisis going up? Why are people getting more unhealthier? Not one person has this model completely figured out, especially in conventional care. The I needs to be removed from the equation.
That's so many people come through our trainings, our retreats, our online programs, and they're in 2 or 3 other programs. It's like, it's not one, it's a holistic approach. It's like,
It's all hands on deck at this point.
It is an all hands on deck. And it's like, there's somatic work. There is, there's a million ways to move energy through the body and bioenergetics and releasing emotions, acupuncture, massage therapy, cupping, all this stuff.
And the idea that there's only one way of doing it and it goes for everyone is
crazy.
A little bit crazy.
And sorry.
Go ahead.
So I mentioned the 5 different components that I look behind the hood, and it's building that integrative team. But let's say you have a group structure and you're showing up on Zoom twice a month for all of your patients. Bring on those guests interview the chiropractor, have them provide education and value. And that at the end, you say, hey, if anybody could use an assessment or making this a part of their routine, then you would invite them. So you don't have to have everybody on your team. You just have to provide the resources. And what we train our coaches are when we give the power back to the patients. Hey, there's a free action on any one of these lifestyle things. Let's take breath work, for example. Here's a breath pattern or a system that you can do absolutely free from your home. Now, hey, if you want to buy this book from James Nestor about breath, here's a resource that can take you deeper. Hey, if you want to come work with JR or so, they can actually take you through this breath work session. So it's being able to provide options to every patient that meets them where they're at in terms of their budget, their belief, and their readiness. And people need options. And then you have to ask that patient, which one of these options are you ready to commit to? Because if they're not committing
gonna do it.
or taking any responsibility, there's no, again, we're right back to here's the pill or the injection, fix me, doctor. And that doesn't work.
Because I hear a lot of people say that I hate going to the gym or it's really difficult to meditate. And there's so many different ways that you can move your body that is in alignment with what makes you happy, like a walk in nature. Or maybe meditation isn't your gig. Maybe guided meditation or hypnosis or breath work is more your thing. And so there's just so many different ways that we can do this. And we can customize the ingredients for the person to make sure that they stay committed and they get the best result for themselves.
Yeah. And this may sound like a lot of different steps. There's truly 5 steps. And
let's dive into
Let's
that.
talk to that.
Yeah. So I mentioned the first one, hiring a coach. And there's a difference between how I was coached. Grew up as a personal trainer. Let's go learn motivational interviewing, nutrition, all those things. And I think the doctors think we're designed to teach and educate. Tell them how to do this versus, again, giving the power back and asking them which they're ready to take angles on. So science and experts tell, stories and coaches sell and propel. So it's, again, inspire, give analogies, give stories, and then pass the ball to them to actually be on their own hero's journey. So before I went through your guys' courses, I gave so much energy away teaching and educating. And yes, I could inspire, and yes, we got amazing results. But I burnt out along the way and ended up selling as we were running our clinic and doing all this because I went into my own health crisis. So that's when I came to your guys' program and learned the power of actual NLP and coaching and how, yes, in my mind, I thought that was about marketing and sales, but it was really actually learning how to clear my own beliefs, my shame, my guilt, my addictions, all the other stuff that I had personally. And it's just like, wow, if I don't create compliance on a different level, if I don't give them their power back instead of just telling them how to do it, I'm missing the whole boat. And that completely, with the emergence of brick and mortar to online, to what actual true coaching that empowers the patient to go through their own work, that's the magic. And that's why I'm here in Park City at Energy for Life Center. Actually true NLP coaching with the life coaching and the personal training, with cutting edge technology, with self-empowerment. It's the secret sauce. So I really believe we've cracked the model that can change the world. And I'm so excited for these type of collaborations.
I love that. Do you feel that people, patients, clients, humanity, do they believe they can heal themselves? Because that's the co-opetition, and I think this is a belief within doctors and medical professionals is, clearing out their own stuff of what the patient can actually do without them. The belief that if you have I have a very solid belief in my ability to heal my body. I know I can tap into the blueprint of perfect health and healing through meditation, through hypnosis, through my diet, exercise routines, cold plunge. And I think somewhere along the line, humanity has lost their own belief structure, their belief system to be able to combat off dis-ease and have strong, healthy immunity, vitality, longevity. Like, where are we so disempowered? Because our whole goal for everyone is ultimate empowerment. And that's not just for the medical professionals, it's also to empower our patients and the clients that we serve. And I think that's something that we really are so focused on in our programs. And you've gotten, we've talked about this before. You've mentioned like healing guilt or doctor guilt or shame of sending someone else that I don't know about that treatment. And so there's probably no way it's going to work. especially if it's maybe more on the regenerative holistic side. And I think there's just so much unknown stuff that people aren't really trusting of, hey, I'm going to refer my client to you.
Yeah, and that's why I believe in personal work. Yes, I went to every mastermind. I did personal development. But the true inner work, no different than what the doctors don't know yet, is they want the patients to do the same. But how many of those doctors, like you said at the beginning, are truly happy,
Healthy.
their nervous system in peace, their joy is there, profitable, great family relationships? I didn't have that. I had all on the external of the world, what the world would call successful, making impact, 100 licensed models all around the world, CEO, entrepreneur of multiple companies, beautiful house, kids, family. But at the same time, my marriage was on the rocks. I wasn't a present father, repeating generational traumas in the name of I meant to change healthcare and provide for my family. But yet I was burning out in the process. So how many people, whether patients, entrepreneurs, doctors, truly have it all? A well-balanced nervous system, profits, impact, amazing relationships, and that's the rare breed. So it's easy to outsource it and see it other people, but when you don't have it yourself, you don't know. So this has been a 4-year journey for me, even though externally I had it all, of going and doing my own work, of truly regulating my nervous system, building intimacy with my wife again, not sexually, but in communication. Instead of you're the provider and I'm the provider and you're the caretaker, it's changing the whole paradigm. And again, not a lot of people are willing to do that work, but if you're meant to change the world, it starts with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's not just with doctors. It's also in the coaching industry. It's also in the therapy model. A lot of times, it's just a new thing that we're starting to see. It's the old paradigm that this is a job and you're the authority, and it's something that you do versus something that you embody. And so shifting it to something that you embody as a coach or a therapist or a doctor, that you are working on yourself on all areas. That doesn't mean that any of us are perfect, because
No.
we're all on that journey. We all got our shit.
One of those yet.
We're all here to learn and grow and transform. And we're looking within to be that role model that, hey, we're walking the walk with integrity. We are doing the work too.
And that's what I think will change the world. I think there's a misconception of NLP is marketing and sales. It's actually all these programs and installations that we've talked about in conditioning. It's actually first an awareness of what is actually being conditioned in news, in media, and in schools, and being able to say, okay, they're doing it for their gain and good, which may be good, but at the end of the day, it's just like, I don't have this awareness. Then the second step is I actually got to clear and work through my stuff. And people don't know that NLP is actually probably the least confronting, the easiest, simplest techniques to actually get that self outcome, but patient outcome. Personally, I had to go the hard way. I went through psychedelics, plant medicine, and that was bumpy. And yes, I'm thankful for it. A ketamine clinic that I was consulting changed my life and created the awareness of, wow, trauma and emotions was running the story. I had all the access to regenerative functional lifestyle. I did all of it. But why am I still dying? Why am I failing? Why is this like I'm burning out and suffering from Lyme's disease? I wasn't addressing the emotional, the energetic, the traumatic. And that's where NLP should be like, oh, I'm not going to send every one of the patients to the jungle, nor can they afford this and do that. But hey, if we can do these simple techniques that I learned, and in 10 minutes, oh my goodness, they're in their body and they're actually going from fear to confidence with a couple of simple techniques. Wow, this can change the world. This is scalable in every medical practice in the world.
The power of human technology.
I think we lose sight of that belief in how powerful we are as individuals.
Well, most people aren't taught how to use this thing. I didn't get a manual.
Mind-body connection. What percentage would you say is like paying attention to the psychology, the mindset? Like what, we're so focused on the physical health. Where's our mental health?
Well, I think it's a focus and a topic now more than ever before, but it's from that old paradigm of teach and educate versus have and they know knowledge is not power. It's like, I may know about working out and exercise, but unless I'm doing it every single day, I really don't know. I don't understand, I don't embody it like you mentioned earlier, there's a difference. So I think a lot of people can talk the game and see the biopsychosocial connection and all this, but they haven't gone and personally done the work. They haven't repeated it and practiced it over and over and over again in their practices to actually get the confidence of, wow, this was the missing link. So I think the conversation is out there, and the podcast, the energy, the actual technique to make it scalable. So that's why you guys are at Energy for Life, not just working on 3 of my coaches, the doctors, the admin, the staff, everybody in there is going through the process, because if they don't know, not just here, but by doing and actually consistently repeating it, it doesn't fully come full circle.
Something we teach often is we limit our clients with our limiting beliefs. We limit our kids, our families, our friends with our limiting thoughts, limiting actions, limiting habits. And that's something that I see so massively in leaders and some of the chiropractors and doctors and medical professionals, nurses that we're talking to, is I don't think we realize there's like known beliefs and then there's unknown beliefs. And it's the unknown limiting beliefs that we don't even know how they actually sneak up and sabotage success in the body, in the mind, in the communication, relationships, the ability to heal, the ability to go make money. Speak to that in your clinic and just what you were able to do when you were building this $8 million clinic.
Is first, it begins with mission, leadership, vision, clarity, and back to those elements. If there's not a structure for that, it's wildly chaotic and beautiful. We're creating. But unless we have proven roadmap, coaching, mentorship of those that have gone in before of us, it's a lot of energy that's scattered instead of focus and clear. And doctors, again, aren't trained to communicate, hold meetings, lead, and build teams. So
Which is coaching.
It's exactly. It's all the
leadership is
structures that I've
coaching.
learned. There isn't a one thing. It's been like the doctor's life work is learning their medicine and craft. My life work was going learning every business structure in wellness and healthcare to make a business model work. So to me, it goes right back to following a proven model of program design, and either how to heal yourself and get coaching, and B, a business model that is profitable, makes sense, and grow, and has been done multiple times before. If you're going and getting financial advice from somebody that's never been successful themselves, not saying it can't happen, but I'd want to go to the guy that does it 9 out of 10 times if they follow their system.
Right.
So it's about the creativeness of all these brilliant doctors and visionaries with that structure, that design, a proven process that works. And that's why I've been successful. Always went and followed and learned and modeled from other mentors that are doing that thing great. I didn't expect them to give me the whole picture. It's just enough learning. And now we've made models that, incorporate all that in a structure that allow the doctors to pour the creativity without getting scattered, unprofitable, and not making progress right away.
Well, going back to what you said, the belief systems or the glass ceiling that we all have, before we hit our next level, is that you went and proactively got mentored, AKA coached, by people that can see your blind spots, that have already been there, they've walked the walk, and they knew how to implement strategies to bust you through the other side. So what would you say in terms of the value of seeking out somebody to support you in this journey?
To me, it's the most important. What happens when we don't have alignment with what we're telling the patients, you need coaching and work with there, but not doing it yourself, there's a disconnect. So where my disconnect is when I was building hundreds of models and license, and why it ultimately didn't work out, I was out of alignment. Meaning I'm working 100-hour work weeks, yes, I'm profitable, and I'm telling my doctors, here's the model, but hustle and grind mentality. So how do you truly have it all with relationships, health, and there? So thank God I learned the lessons that I learned and that I did burn out, because I was teaching out of alignment. And yes, it would attract people in, but now I had to build a model that actually did produce profits, did allow freedom, did allow for space and creativity and structure. And it's a learning process. Nobody's figured this out. It's just like you said, next level, next level, next level. And it's just, back to that collaboration. You can't do it all alone. And really, to have the greatest impact and to change the world, it's going to take vertical alignment of other aligned parties to have the greatest impact. And that's why I'm so happy for what we're doing together at the centers and coaching, with practitioners and all these modalities combining together. It's what it's going to take.
Break down at a high level how you're building this coaching arm out at the Energy for Life Center, and go in as detailed as you want. But what do you see as getting coaches trained in different mental and emotional tools to be able to leverage the doctor's time? I think there's a lot of doctors, even holistic doctors and medical professionals, that don't see how coaching comes into medicine. They see coaching yet. They see coaching and they see medicine as like two separate things. And I don't think they see where lifestyle changes fail. Like, it's like, go lose weight, go eat healthy, go work out. And
then they're scrambling because they don't have a proven structure or process or coach that has done it 100 times.
And the client comes back because they've been on medication, and it's like, okay, cool. Because I've talked to so many doctors and nurses that their patients, they're like, we see them coming back with the same thing, right? It's onset diabetes, or it's they're diabetic, and it's like, it's lifestyle changes. Everybody's talking about lifestyle changes. So break that down for me. Like, where is that going wrong?
It's going wrong is there's not a win-win-win model for everybody and how to do it. But what is common is this is not, from the educational perspective, it's not a big deal. It's like, we could talk about the 5 to 10 things that lifestyle medicine, and why a lot of doctors don't do it is like, well, I'm not a trained nutrition, I'm not an exercise. Well, do you do any of these? Let's talk about the 3 to 7 most important things that would be similar all together. So let's talk some lifestyle components. What are important to get an outcome? Exercise.
Yeah.
What else?
Eating healthy.
Nutrition.
What about sleep?
Sleep
is pretty
it's
damn
a big
important.
elephant in the room for most people.
Nature.
Yeah, nature.
Outside.
Breath
sun,
work.
certain vitamins
Emotional
and minerals.
regulation.
Mindfulness.
Detoxification of environment.
Detoxification, environment, family, products,
Belief systems.
thoughts.
Trauma.
Exactly. So these are the same 5 to 10 components, no matter which way you want to do it, whether you want to call it mind, body, nutrition, exercise. So call it the 5 keys, the 4 principles, the 6 standards, whatever you want to call it. Put your creativity into it, and then we identify those. So whether it's 4 things or 6 things, then we have a 6-week curriculum. And then show up, whether it's monthly or weekly like we do at our center, and you teach those things. But you may be like, well, I'm not a nutrition or an exercise expert. Well, doctor, you're the authority. You want to start with the overview of this. Just get on there, and you don't have to teach them. Remember, that model stinks. You have to say, I go for a walk 30 minutes every morning, and this is what's worked for me. And I love going to my yoga studio 2 days a week. You just have to do it.
I like to put
and
my feet on
communicate
the
it.
grass.
Exactly,
every
about
day.
the nature and everything. But then you bring in that coach that can speak on that group curriculum, and afterwards be like, hey, here's my coach JR. And if anybody, you want to go deeper and have a customized exercise program, even if they're not your employee, you simply
Pass rapport.
pass the referral to them for the one-on-one care. They're in your program getting all this education, but you pass to that personal trainer, whether they're an employee or they're doing their own thing, and that's part of your referral partner. So if it's their own thing, great. Now they're going to send all of their patients that need that PRP or that functional medicine to you, and you pass all those that are willing to all the patients that are willing to step in to more customized care to that personal trainer. Now, that's phase 1. The next step is simply take it in-house or have an independent contractor that's doing their own, and then you have a win-win relationship.
An expert in the
It does
in the
that.
field.
So I, in our old models, would hire the full-time dietitian, nutrition, and that gets expensive. Now with
And you got to manage everybody.
Exactly. The emergence, the online win-win independent contractor relationships are ideal place
Get
to
them on
begin.
Zoom and do a group call.
And like I said before, anybody can do this right now.
Correct. And you may be a conventional doctor that doesn't have a functional doctor. Bring them on your group program, and then again, you have a referral. Because that functional medicine doctor is going to have plenty of patients that say, oh, I can only go if my insurance affords this. Then they refer right back to you. So it's just that trust in that co-opetition, in that collaboration inside these group models. But if you don't have coaching, you don't have lifestyle, I don't believe we can get them the same result or give them the education and knowledge or resources to take action on.
I see that being a huge space of expansion for any traditional medicine doctor, allopathic, holistic, is the expansion in strategic partnerships, referrals, And it's the gratitude model instead of the ego. I'm gotta,
And
hold
it
on
comes
to
out
this
of
patient.
fear. It's not because somebody, from my perspective, it's not because the doctor doesn't want the patient to heal. I mean, it's fear, or just not knowing what to do, or never having to build that relationship.
Fear of damaging the
Relationship. What if this person doesn't
reputation.
perform?
Exactly. Fear of recommending to something that may or may not get an outcome, and it impacts their reputation. If I refer to JR and he's a personal trainer and that patient gets injured, I'm liable. I've made the referral.
Sure.
I'm with the world of malpractice today at risk. So it's easier. Or if I don't know
We're
enough
getting
to speak
roasted
about
on
the
social
regenerative,
media.
I don't know the research. Is this even going to work? Because I haven't studied that. That's my background. Right back to that fear. Am I going to get in trouble? Am I going to get sued? Does it even work?
Sure.
They have to pay cash out of their pocket. I can't refer to them when they can't afford it. Those belief systems, because they are in an insurance model many times when they're just beginning. So a lot of beliefs, a lot of fears, and a lot of truth to that. But that's where go look at these relationships. Go look at the world leading outcomes. What do you truly need to get that patient the best outcome? And you can't ignore it. It may not be the priority, the gut, the brain, the knee, the physical, the emotional, spiritual. But when that patient has that gap, you need to have that referral partner that can
Ready to go.
support that area, because if you don't, that patient's not going to get their next level of health.
Yeah. What would you speak to in terms of how to mitigate that fear for some doctors that are listening right now?
So, and this happens in regenerative medicine. I'd go speak at orthopedic surgery conferences, right? And they'd say, oh, there's no evidence in that PRP. I said, have you actually looked at the latest research? Have you gone to a clinic that does this at the highest level? And are you following the patient outcomes? Have you done this yourself? Because the belief system closed, but if you haven't experienced it and actually done it and know, you really don't know. And there's a lot of handlers, or there's a lot of big systems that don't want you to go do the things that unlock a lot of different aha moments or enlightenments or consciousness, whatever you want to define that is. It's by design. The system is not broken. It is set up to perfection. So if we want
For disempowerment.
Exactly.
So speaking to the profitability of doctors that have their own private practice, family physicians, we've been having lots of conversations with doctors that are looking for more care. They're wanting to expand services in their practice. They're not sure how to do that. They're not sure how to create more profit and more impact at the same time. I think there's a lot of chiropractors, I think, in that boat, naturopaths, that they are chasing adjustments. They're chasing smaller initial patient visits, and they don't see how to make this a profitable venture. So speak to that, and it's scary when we're seeing not only the number of doctors and professionals that are living paycheck to paycheck, burnt out, stressed, overworked, all the things that we've talked about before. How can they create profits right now in their practice?
Yeah, so most people have money blocks, especially doctors, because of the insurance model that we've talked about. And what has to shift for somebody at one point is, I was a drug dealer in high school to get through, and that brought me revenues to be able to pay through schools. What a lot of doctors realize is they become professional medical mafia. They're being drug dealers, right? And so why a lot of them leave is they recognize that many times the medicine's doing more harm than good that they're doing. So there has to be a breakthrough, and they go because they're like, I got something that can change the world, and I'm gonna actually deliver them outcomes. Well, if you believe that, then if you look at other business models, those that are providing the most good, the most outcomes, the most potential, is you don't deserve to just make the 200 or the 300,000. You deserve to be making $1 million if your model is producing greater outcomes. But because that conditioning, if their insurance doesn't pay for it, it's not good, or they can't, not dealing with their own money stuff, they got to get over that hump and be like, I know if I don't get this patient to say, yes, they're not going to get better in any other model, I have a moral obligation to get this person the best outcome. Well, in order to make that living, to provide those best team members, the best coaches, the best technologies, you need to see yourself as the Ferrari, the BMW dealer, in the source of like, hey, we are the answer. And not yes, you should charge the Ferrari and the BMW place, but your bleeding heart may say, well, how do we help everybody else that can't afford this? The education, that is free. Give your whole heart away. Well, people will steal it. No. Just like we said, the lifestyle medicine is the same for everybody. What they're going to resonate is with your heart, with your message, your call. And the market is so big out there. Most people are like, well, if I do this, or they'll take my patient, or I can't refer. No, you get outcomes. As Zig Ziglar said, provide enough value in the world, it's going to come to you. Be a value giver, open heart, change the world by showing up and charging the most. The education part is free. You can put people in those groups or go online with your podcast, your Instagram, your YouTube, give it away.
For a doctor that doesn't know what a money block is, what is a money block? And put it in the context of family practice, family physician, medical, holistic practice, regenerative medicine practice.
Asking people for money about oneself when they're not in full alignment is a struggle for a lot of people. But if I asked you, Brandon, if you were going to come to my hometown, St. Cloud, Minnesota, and, or as to ask another doctor, hey, I'm coming to Park City. Where should I eat? Where's your favorite place? They'd probably light up and say, hey, go to there. And then this place is amazing. You're going to love the energy, the ambience, the service. It's world class. Go there. But yet if I ask them to do that about their practice, they're going to be like, oh, you could. And yes, you could do an omega. And yes, you could do a stem cell. And that passion falls away. So until you can believe and your system is the solution, that you're willing to pay top dollar, unless you're excited and passionate and confident that you're not going to get everybody a life-changing outcome, but make them progress. Have certainty that you will guide somebody to progress and know that it's better than the conventional other alternatives out there. You have that moral obligation.
Absolutely.
100%.
And what I've found is when I invest in things that are luxury, or I don't want to say expensive, but they're worth the value, we show up. We get more out of it. There's an absolute piece to that as well, as if clients are showing up to get their value instead of trying to find out how they didn't get value or how it didn't work, focus on how it will.
Yes, our Parkinson's is the main niche that we serve at the Energy for Life centers. It's a $25,000 program. And at the end of the day, that's a leap for some people. But when those people invest, they're fully paying attention, right? And I know other clinics that do not exactly what we do, but something similar and are charging $3,000 to $5,000 for the same thing. They show up. They'll even get the last dollar and come there. But now, instead of like, I'm hopeless and I'm losing, they've made progress and their life's changing, and nothing, health and wealth go hand in hand. You cannot do anything wealthy to your family, to your loved ones, to impact in the world if your health is not there. It's the top priority
100%.
Versus they got $100,000 cars and mortgages and houses and stuff that doesn't even matter. It's just like health is the ultimate wealth.
Our number one value between our relationship and in our business is health. Like, we value that so
Yeah,
much.
because we don't have anything if we don't have our health.
Because you can't go make the money if you don't have longevity and immunity and just the ability to have resilience in your body.
And being able to shift the paradigm for the client or the patient that's coming in, because they have been programmed, or we, the people, have been programmed that you don't invest in your health. That's already taken care of for
your
you.
insurance has
we
got
have,
it.
yeah,
How's
we
that
got
working
it.
for us?
But we see it differently with car insurance. Like, that's there for an emergency purpose. Like, hopefully I don't have to use it.
And that's
it's
exactly
the
what
exact same
healthcare
way.
can be.
Is like, American care is amazing for emergency. If I got in an accident,
incredible.
shattered my
100%.
leg, we're all free from that.
Cancel clear.
It's just like, I'm going to need that conventional system,
For sure.
like, so thankful for what we have. So it's not us versus them.
Yes.
It's all a part of it. But if I'm looking to live to 100, have great health and longevity and not be on multiple medications, it's taking ownership of my health and doing the lifestyle components that matter.
That ownership piece is huge. So we're about to wrap this up. I want you to dive into the 5 steps that you've mentioned. I want to get clear so that everybody understands what that is and what that means, and do it inside of, I've talked to quite a few chiropractors, and I think, probably because we're so close with Greg and Elena and what they've been able to do inside of her business. I mean, growing it to 200,000 plus, contacts and
our own personal transformation.
Global
from working with Dr.
healing.
B.
Yes, absolutely. And working with them to dial in and optimize our health. I think something that's really important is, like, chiropractors I see are such an integral piece to everything coming together. I think they're more important than they believe they are. I think they understand energy, they understand bioenergetics, they get diet, nutrition, most of them, and they're chasing adjustments. How do you help them? How do you help their business, how do their practice profit? How can they get more profits coming in? They work their asses off, from my perspective, and they're chasing $48 to $38. I mean, I can go to the Joint Chiropractic, franchise and get a $35 adjustment. They're chasing adjustments. What's a package that they can be enrolling their people into, their clients, their patients, that can truly give them the healthcare and the wellness care that they're looking for within the system that built your $8 million clinic?
Yeah. So like, I love working with chiropractors because they've been trained or have had to come as they apprentice or go through a volume model in retaining them and keeping them beyond the 20 visits, whatever insurance can happen. So I typically find they have an easier path in cash practice success than many MDs based on how they've been conditioned and trained. However, the MD authority and the marketing behind that, they have some competitive advantages. So it's both in all, and it comes down to the 5 steps are absolutely the same for any clinic. It's just the doctors may need a little bit more focus here, and the chiropractors need a little bit more focus on program design and the big outcome that is cash-based. But they already have the volume, the people in front of them, the numbers that can greatly accelerate profits in a hurry. So if we look at the 5 steps, first is hire a coach that knows how to get results, sell, and retain patients, because the doctors don't have time for that. They're the authority, whether chiropractor, MD, doesn't matter. You look the patient in the eyes and say, here's the program that's going to work for you. And then you let the coaches do the rest.
What would this team of coaches do? What does that look like?
They're answering the calls. Most doctors do Facebook ads and they say, oh, that didn't work. Well, do you got somebody that's calling the leads, answering the leads within 5 minutes? Do you actually know somebody that cannot just give the prices away and communicate what they need? Do you have people that know how to get them to the next step? Do you have people after you do the consult or the review of findings that follows up and closes the $5, $10, $25, $50,000 package, which the doctors aren't the greatest at, nor does it actually help them lend authority to them. The doctor prescribes and go away and let the other people come do their things. So it's hiring somebody that actually can be a part of the enrollment process. And the second component is most doctors see marketing as an expense. Once you know how to get that in, it's like my top KPI is how much money can I actually spend in marketing, especially if I know that. Print money. Like if I spend $50 and it gets me $200, I'm going to keep pumping that thing full of money. And a lot of doctors aren't trained like that. So that's step 1.
Beautiful. Love it.
Step 2 is program design. Like we said, you can go try to build things, be creative, but unless you're following a model that's already been proven and working, then you're going to spend a lot of resources, time figuring it out. Don't reinvent the wheel is a common phrase a lot of us have heard. There's a lot of truth to that. Not saying that we won't pour your creativity, your brand name, your words, the things that you believe into there, but there's a proven structure in this that absolutely works. That third component, we've already talked a lot about it. If you're not doing group delivery, there's only so much time to do one-on-one care. That's great for the procedures, for the first visits, for the follow-ups, but everything else needs to be in a scalable fashion. Otherwise, there's a hard cap on the income and the people that you can truly serve. And the fourth step is usually the step that doctors and practices take. It's like, hey, if I go open my practice, then I get this fancy technology, or go get the ultrasound, or go get the laser, or go get this certification and add all these tools,
equipments.
Then I'll be able, in certifications, whether education, tools, or equipment, it's the same. When I go get this, then I'll have it, as opposed to really bringing it back and being like, man, I got to actually get a system that gets people through the door, an outcome. Then that next step is add that passive income, add that other device, add that other coach full-time now that can accelerate my margins and my outcome capabilities versus passing that ball. They think I got to go get all of them so I can get that outcome, versus you got to start incrementally and learn how to retain profits so you actually can invest to a model of health. So double down on passive income opportunities only after you're getting profits. People do it the
The
wrong
other way.
order.
Lead with revenue.
The fifth, we already talked about it, is co-opetition. If you don't have your referral network that is actually passing back and forth, referrals from other people that have your ideal patients is the ideal place to begin. Marketing and sales takes a lot of time and expertise to learn. Getting amazing referral partner. One family practice doctor could fill up a regenerative medicine practice if they believed in you and that relationship was deep enough to really make that enhance. Relationships are the top capital in the world, whether our employees, our loved ones, our family, no matter what, it's about relationships that are going to provide success, happiness, intimacy, fulfillment, bar none.
And that's how we shift the paradigm, is the community.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We have friends at A4M right now and some other medical professionals in the community. And I was like, get business cards, create strategic relationships. And one doctor was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. I was like, you know how many referrals you all can pass around between each other? It's like, that's community, that is collaboration, and that is leading with giving referrals to other professionals. So I think that is such a great piece to end on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
There's
you
one
so
more
much.
component.
What is that?
What I knew before was a lean model that had lighter margins. There's a new age opportunity with patient awareness in that we need more than the conventional system. So doing it online, in with these hybrid brick and mortars, or just purely online, has never been easier, more affordable, and profitable as long as you know this system. And it absolutely, if it doesn't have the coaching, it's not going to be a part of that new model. We cannot do it all alone. We have to collaborate. We all need community, and we have an opportunity to change the world, and the world needs it. Now is the time, and I'm so honored for your partnership to be able to include the missing link that I believe will create that shift. And I can't wait to do some events with you guys and bring this full circle that are going to make an impact well beyond any of us have ever dreamed of.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun. We're excited about this.
Thank you so much, JR.
Connection relationship. If you want to reach out to JR, the links are below in this video. And, reach out to JR, have a conversation. I think if you are a medical professional and you're looking for, guidance, he is an incredible resource to connect with. So super grateful you came on. Thank you so much.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Absolutely.